The afternoon sun felt warm through the airport windows as travelers rushed past with their rolling suitcases and coffee cups. Gate 12 was packed with people waiting to board Flight 427 to Denver. Some checked their phones, others chatted with family members, and a few tried to grab a quick nap before the 3-hour journey ahead. Near the back of the waiting area sat a young man named Devin. He was 34 years old, dressed in a simple blue shirt and jeans with a well-worn diaper bag slung over his shoulder. But what caught people's attention was the tiny bundle in his arms. His 6-month-old daughter, Lily, was wrapped in a soft pink blanket, her little face peaceful as she dozed against his chest. Devin had been nervous about this trip for days. This was his first time flying alone with Lily since his wife Rachel had gone back to work as a nurse. Rachel had written him a detailed list of everything he might need, checked his diaper bag twice and called him 3 times that morning to make sure he had the baby formula and extra pacifiers. He'd laughed at her worry, but now, sitting at the gate with what felt like 100 eyes on him, he understood her concern. Now boarding Group A for Flight 427 to Denver, the gate agent announced through the speaker. Devin carefully stood up, adjusting Lily in his arms. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. He'd timed her feeding perfectly, hoping she'd sleep through boarding and maybe even the first hour of the flight. He grabbed the diaper bag and joined the line, smiling politely at the other passengers. The plane's aisle felt even narrower than he remembered. Devin moved slowly, trying not to bump Lily's head against the overhead compartments or anyone's shoulders. His seat was in row 12 toward the middle of the plane. As he got closer, he could see someone already sitting in the window seat of his row. She was a woman who looked to be in her late 40s, with blonde hair pulled back so tight it made her face look stern. She wore a cream-colored blazer that looked expensive and had perfectly manicured nails that tapped against her phone screen. Everything about her screamed business class, though this was just premium economy. "Excuse me," Devin said softly, trying not to wake Lily. "I think I'm in the aisle seat here. 12C. The woman, whose name was Patricia, barely looked up. Her eyes flicked from her phone to Devin, then to the baby and back to her phone. She didn't say a word. She just shifted her designer purse slightly to make it clear she wasn't moving from her spot. Devin felt a flutter of discomfort, but pushed it aside. Maybe she was just focused on something important. He carefully maneuvered into the aisle seat, trying to get settled without disturbing Lily. The diaper bag went under the seat in front of him. He checked it for the 4th time that day, making sure he had bottles, diapers, wipes, and the little stuffed elephant that Lily loved. Around them, the plane continued to fill up with travelers. Across the aisle, an older couple smiled warmly at Lily. The man even gave Devin a thumbs up as if to say, "Good job, Dad." Behind them, a teenager with bright purple headphones nodded along to music. A businessman in a suit squeezed past muttering apologies. It was like any other Tuesday afternoon flight, just ordinary people trying to get from one place to another. Devin finally started to relax. Lily was still sleeping soundly. He had everything he needed. The flight was only 3 hours. He could do this. Then Patricia spoke. "Is that baby going to scream the entire flight?" Her voice was sharp and cold, cutting through the normal airplane noise like a knife. Devin looked over, surprised. He'd thought maybe she was warming up to them or at least ignoring them peacefully. She's actually a really good flyer," Devin said, keeping his voice friendly. "This is our 3rd trip together. She usually sleeps most of the way." Patricia's mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That's not what I asked you." The words hung in the air between them. Devin felt his stomach tighten. He'd dealt with difficult people before, but something about her tone made him uneasy. He decided to focus on Lily instead, gently adjusting her blanket and making sure she was comfortable. The flight attendants moved down the aisle, demonstrating how to fasten seatbelts and pointing out emergency exits. Most passengers ignored them, having seen the routine 100 times before. But Devin watched, grateful for the distraction. That's when Lily started to fuss. It wasn't crying, just small noises that meant she was waking up and might be uncomfortable. Devin immediately reached for her pacifier and began gently bouncing her, the way Rachel had shown him. He whispered soft words, "Hey there, baby girl. It's okay. Daddy's right here." It worked. Within seconds, Lily's eyes grew heavy again and she settled back into sleep. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds. "Unbelievable," Patricia muttered. but she said it loud enough for Devon and several other passengers to hear clearly. Of course they'd stick me next to this situation. Devon felt heat rising in his face. He'd been patient. He'd been polite. But now his daughter was being called a situation, and something about that word made his jaw clench. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but is there actually a problem?" He kept his voice calm, the way his father had taught him to do when confronted. Patricia turned in her seat to face him fully now. Her face had gone red, and her voice rose loud enough that people 3 rows away could hear every word. "The problem is that some people have absolutely no consideration for others on a flight. I have a very important presentation tomorrow morning in Denver, and I need to work during this flight. I specifically requested a quiet seat when I booked my ticket." "I understand that," Devon said, trying to keep the conversation from escalating. "But I'm doing everything I can to keep her calm. She's just a baby. She can't help it if she makes noise sometimes." "Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to book a flight," Patricia snapped back. Her eyes narrowed as she looked at him, and Devon felt something cold settle in his chest. "Or maybe you should have chosen seats in the back of the plane where you belong." The words felt like a slap. The way she said you, the way she emphasized belong, the quick glance she gave toward the rear of the aircraft. Devon had experienced racism before, the subtle kind and the obvious kind, but something about it happening while he held his sleeping daughter made it feel even worse. Several passengers had turned in their seats now. The older couple across the aisle looked shocked. The teenager had pulled off one side of her headphones. Even the businessman who'd been working on his laptop had stopped typing. "Excuse me?" Devon managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. He was shaking now, though he tried to hide it. Patricia wasn't done. In fact, she seemed to gain confidence from the audience. "I pay good money for these tickets. I shouldn't have to deal with crying babies and people who don't understand basic airplane etiquette, and that is quite enough." The new voice came from right beside them in the aisle. Everyone turned to look. A flight attendant stood there, her expression calm but her eyes flashing with something that looked like controlled anger. Her name tag read Jennifer, and she appeared to be in her early 30s. She had kind eyes, the kind that probably smiled easily under normal circumstances, but right now those eyes had turned to stone. "Ma'am," Jennifer said, looking directly at Patricia, "I'm going to need you to lower your voice immediately." Patricia's face went from red to nearly purple. "Oh, this is just perfect. Now you're going to side with him? I'm the one being inconvenienced here. I'm the paying customer who has to sit next to a screaming baby, and that baby hasn't made a sound in 5 minutes, Jennifer interrupted, her voice still calm but carrying absolute authority. "And even if she had been crying, that wouldn't give you the right to speak to another passenger the way you just did." The plane had gone completely silent. Even the engines seemed to quiet down. Devon held Lily a little closer, his heart pounding in his chest. He'd never expected his simple trip to visit his brother to turn into this. Patricia stared at Jennifer like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her perfectly manicured hand clutched her phone so tight that her knuckles turned white. "Are you seriously going to lecture me right now? I'm the victim here." Jennifer didn't blink. She stood in the aisle with her hands clasped in front of her, looking completely professional but also completely unmovable. "Ma'am, I'm not lecturing anyone. I'm informing you that your behavior is creating a disturbance on this aircraft. That's a violation of FAA regulations." Devon sat frozen in his seat, still holding Lily close. His daughter had started to wake up from all the noise, her little face scrunching up in that way babies do right before they cry. He gently rocked her and made soft shushing sounds, trying to keep her calm. The last thing he wanted was for her to actually start crying and prove Patricia right, even though she'd been wrong about everything else. "A disturbance?" Patricia's voice went up another notch. "I'm creating a disturbance? What about him and that baby? What about my right to a peaceful flight that I paid for?" "You have the right to a peaceful flight," Jennifer agreed, her voice still level. "Just like every other passenger on this plane, including this gentleman and his daughter. They paid for their tickets too. They have confirmed seats, and they've done absolutely nothing wrong." The older woman across the aisle suddenly spoke up. "She's right, you know. That baby's been quiet as a mouse. You're the only one making noise." Patricia whipped her head around. "Nobody asked you." "Well, I'm telling you anyway," the older woman said firmly. Her husband nodded beside her, his face set in disapproval. "My wife and I have been on hundreds of flights. We've sat near plenty of babies. This little one hasn't been any trouble at all. You, on the other hand, need to learn some manners." Devon felt a rush of gratitude toward these strangers. He'd been feeling so alone a moment ago, wondering if everyone on the plane was judging him. But now he realized that people had been watching Patricia's behavior, not his. They'd seen exactly what was happening. Patricia's face had gone from purple to almost white now. She looked around the cabin as if searching for support but found none. The teenager with the purple headphones had her phone out, clearly recording. The businessman was watching with his arms crossed. Even the young mother a few rows up, who was holding her own toddler, was shaking her head. "This is ridiculous," Patricia said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. She turned back to Jennifer. "Fine. If nobody wants to help me, then I want to speak to your supervisor. I want to file a complaint." "You can file all the complaints you want when we land," Jennifer interrupted. "But right now we need to prepare for takeoff. So I'm going to give you 2 clear options and you need to choose one right now." Devon watched as Jennifer pulled a small notepad from her pocket. Something about that simple action made the whole situation feel more official, more serious. Patricia seemed to sense it too because she went very still. "Option 1, Jennifer said, her voice taking on a tone that reminded Devon of a teacher addressing a misbehaving student. "You apologize to this passenger for your rude and inappropriate comments. You take your seat quietly. We complete this flight without any further issues. When we land, you're free to file whatever complaints you want." Patricia opened her mouth, but Jennifer held up a finger. "Option 2. I call the captain right now. We return to the gate. You're removed from this aircraft. The airline will document this incident, and you'll likely be placed on our no-fly list pending an investigation. You'll need to find another way to Denver at your own expense. And considering you have that important presentation tomorrow, I'm guessing that's not ideal." The cabin was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Lily made a small cooing sound and Devon automatically adjusted her position, keeping her comfortable. He still couldn't quite believe this was happening. He'd just wanted to visit his brother in Denver. He just wanted a normal flight. Patricia's mouth opened and closed several times. "You can't do this to me. This is discrimination. I'm being punished for having legitimate concerns." "Your concerns stopped being legitimate the moment you told this man he belonged in the back of the plane," Jennifer said quietly. "We all heard it. Multiple passengers are recording it. Your words and your tone made your meaning very clear." A man's voice came from a few rows back. Devon couldn't see who it was, but the voice was firm and angry. "Lady, just apologize and sit down. We all want to get to Denver and you're holding everyone up." "Seriously," another passenger added. "You're being completely out of line." Patricia looked around again, and this time Devon could see something changing in her expression. Maybe it was embarrassment. Maybe it was the realization that she'd gone too far. Maybe it was just the fear of missing her important presentation. Whatever it was, she seemed to shrink a little in her seat. "I need an answer," Jennifer said. "Option 1 or option 2? And I need it now because we have a schedule to keep." Devon felt Lily squirming in his arms. She was definitely waking up now, probably hungry. He needed to get her bottle ready, needed to change her diaper before takeoff. But he couldn't move, couldn't look away from this moment. Everything felt suspended in time. Patricia's shoulders slumped. She wouldn't look at Devon, wouldn't look at Jennifer. She stared at her lap instead, at her expensive purse and her designer shoes. "Fine," she said so quietly that Devon almost couldn't hear her. "Option 1. I'm sorry, what was that?" Jennifer asked. "I said option 1. Patricia snapped, her head jerking up. But then she seemed to catch herself. She took a breath. "Option 1. I'll apologize." Jennifer nodded and stepped back slightly, giving Patricia a clear view of Devon. Everyone waited. Patricia turned in her seat, still not quite meeting Devon's eyes. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things. It was inappropriate." The apology was stiff and clearly forced, but it was there. Devon looked down at Lily, who was now wide awake and looking up at him with those big, trusting eyes. He thought about what his own father would do in this situation. He thought about what kind of example he wanted to set for his daughter. "Thank you," he said simply, because being gracious even when someone didn't deserve it was what good people did, and he wanted to be a good person, especially for Lily. Jennifer made a note on her pad. "Mrs. Hendricks, there's an empty seat in row 23. It's a window seat with extra space. You'd have more room to work on your presentation there. Would you like me to help you relocate? Patricia looked at the seat she was in, then toward the back of the plane, then at Jennifer. Yes, she said quietly. That would be fine. She stood up quickly, gathering her things with shaky hands. Her phone, her purse, her tablet, a half-empty water bottle. She wouldn't look at Devin or Lily as she squeezed past them into the aisle. She wouldn't look at any of the passengers who were still watching. She just kept her head down and followed Jennifer toward the back of the plane. As she passed, the teenager with the purple headphones said, "That's going on social media. Just so you know." Patricia's steps faltered for a moment, but she kept walking. Devin let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. His hands were shaking. Lily started to fuss louder now, definitely hungry. He fumbled with the diaper bag, trying to find her bottle with trembling fingers. The older woman across the aisle leaned over. "You did good, honey, real good. Don't you let people like that get to you." "Thank you," Devin managed to say. His voice came out rough. "That's a beautiful baby you've got there," the woman's husband added. "You're doing a great job." Devin felt tears prickling at his eyes, but he blinked them away. He had to focus on Lily now. Had to get her fed and comfortable before takeoff. The rest of it, all the anger and hurt and confusion, that could wait. His daughter needed him. Jennifer returned a few minutes later without Patricia. She smiled at Devin, a real smile this time. "How are you doing? Can I get you anything?" "I'm okay," Devin said, though he wasn't sure if that was true. "Just need to feed her before we take off. Take all the time you need. And listen," Jennifer's voice dropped lower, more personal. "What just happened? That was wrong. You shouldn't have had to deal with that. But you handled it with real grace." Devin nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "I'm going to bring you some complimentary drinks once we're in the air." Jennifer continued, "And if you need anything at all during this flight, you just press that call button." "Okay?" "Okay," Devin whispered. "Thank you for everything." As Jennifer walked away to prepare for takeoff, Devin finally got Lily's bottle ready. She latched onto it eagerly, her little hands coming up to hold it. The plane began to push back from the gate, and Devin looked out the window at the world sliding past. The plane leveled off at cruising altitude, and the seatbelt sign dinged off. Devin had been staring out the window for the past 20 minutes, watching the ground disappear beneath layers of white clouds. Lily had finished her bottle and was now sleeping peacefully against his shoulder, her tiny hand curled into a fist near her mouth. He should have felt relieved. Patricia was gone, moved to the back of the plane where she couldn't bother them anymore. The other passengers had been kind, even supportive, but Devin couldn't shake the tightness in his chest, the way his jaw still felt clenched, the replay of Patricia's words running through his mind on an endless loop. "Where you belong." Those 3 words kept echoing. He'd heard similar things before, of course. Growing up, his father had warned him about moments like this. "You'll be twice as good and get half the credit," his dad used to say. "You'll keep your cool when others lose theirs because you don't have the luxury of being angry in public." Devin had nodded along to those talks, understanding them in theory. But actually living through them, especially while holding his innocent daughter, made everything feel different. Heavier. "Excuse me?" Devin looked up to see Jennifer standing in the aisle again. She was holding a tray with a bottle of water, a coffee, and some cookies. "I promised you some complimentary refreshments. Mind if I sit for a moment?" The middle seat was empty, so Devin nodded. Jennifer sat down, setting the tray on the fold-down table. "The coffee's fresh, and the cookies are actually decent, which is rare for airline food." "Thank you," Devin said, accepting the coffee. The warmth of the cup felt good in his hands. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, then she spoke softly. "I know what happened earlier was difficult. I just wanted to check on you. Really check on you. Not as a flight attendant, but as one person to another." Devin felt that tightness in his chest again. "I'm managing," he said, which was the truth, even if it wasn't the whole truth. "You know," Jennifer said, looking down at her hands, "I became a flight attendant for a specific reason. It's not something I usually talk about, but after what just happened, I think you should hear it." Devin glanced at her, curious despite his emotional exhaustion. Jennifer took a breath. 20 years ago, I was a baby, a tiny little thing, barely 6 months old. My parents were bringing me home from South Korea. They'd just adopted me, and it was our first flight together as a family. Devin listened, carefully adjusting Lily as she shifted in her sleep. I don't remember any of it, obviously, but my parents told me the story so many times that it feels like I do. They said I cried for hours on that flight. We're talking the kind of crying that makes everyone turn around and stare. The kind where nothing works, not bottles or pacifiers or rocking or singing. I was just scared and confused and in a completely new world. Jennifer's eyes got a faraway look. My mom said several passengers complained to the flight attendants. Some were nice about it, suggesting ideas to help, but others were cruel. One woman in particular kept making loud comments about how my parents were being inconsiderate, how they should have left me in Korea if they couldn't control me, how she'd paid good money for her ticket and shouldn't have to listen to that Oriental baby scream. Devin felt his stomach twist. That's awful. It was, Jennifer agreed. My parents were first-time parents, already nervous about everything. They'd been moved from their original seats in the back to fill some empty spots near the front. So here they were, trying to figure out how to be parents, dealing with a crying baby and getting attacked by strangers. My mom said she started crying too. She thought maybe they'd made a mistake, that maybe they weren't cut out for this. A flight attendant walked past pushing a drink cart, and Jennifer paused until they'd moved on. Then she continued. But then something happened. A man who'd been sitting a few rows back came up to them. My dad said he was a black man, probably in his 50s, traveling alone. He didn't complain or roll his eyes or make snide comments. Instead, he asked if he could help. Devin found himself leaning in, slightly drawn into the story. My parents were surprised. Here was this stranger, offering to help when everyone else was acting like they were public enemy number one. The man sat down in the empty seat next to them, and he just started talking. He told them about his own kids, how all babies cry, how it doesn't mean you're a bad parent. He made funny faces at me until I actually stopped crying and looked at him. Then he offered to hold me so my mom could eat something. She hadn't eaten in hours. Jennifer smiled at the memory she'd never actually witnessed. My dad said this man held me for almost an hour. He walked up and down the aisle with me, gently bouncing me and humming. He told my parents stories about his life, his family, his experiences. He made them laugh when they'd been ready to give up. And when the flight landed, he helped them carry their bags through the airport. Did they ever see him again? Devin asked quietly. No, Jennifer said. They never even got his last name. Just knew him as Mr. Johnson. But that one act of kindness changed everything for my family. It made them feel like maybe, just maybe, they'd found a place where people would help instead of hurt, where strangers could become friends. Devin felt tears stinging his eyes. Johnson's my last name too. Jennifer's eyes widened. Is it really? Yeah, Devin Johnson. They both sat there for a moment, letting the coincidence settle over them. Jennifer shook her head in wonder. Well, Mr. Johnson, I think the universe has a funny way of connecting dots sometimes. Why are you telling me this? Devin asked, his voice rough with emotion. Jennifer looked at him directly. Because what that man gave my family wasn't just help with a crying baby. He gave them hope. He showed them that for every person filled with hate and prejudice, there's someone else filled with kindness and grace. And I've spent my entire career trying to pay that forward. She gestured around the cabin. Every time I put on this uniform, I think about him. Every time I see a parent struggling with a child, every time someone gets treated unfairly because of how they look or where they're from, I remember that stranger who helped my family. And I try to be that person for someone else. Devin had to wipe his eyes. He looked down at Lily, still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the heavy conversation happening above her. What Patricia said to you today, Jennifer continued. The way she treated you and your daughter, that was wrong. It was cruel and racist and completely unacceptable. But I want you to know that she doesn't represent everyone. She doesn't even represent most people. Feels like it sometimes, Devin admitted. I know, Jennifer said softly. Trust me, I know. Growing up as a Korean kid in a small town, I faced my share of hatred too. People who thought I should go back where I came from, even though this was where I came from. People who made fun of my eyes or my parents' accents. But I also met people like that man on the plane, people who chose kindness when they could have chosen cruelty. A baby started crying somewhere toward the back of the plane. Both Devin and Jennifer looked in that direction, then smiled at each other. Sounds like someone else needs their parent, Devin said. And they're handling it just fine, Jennifer noted. Just like you handled everything today. You kept your daughter safe and calm. You stayed dignified when someone tried to strip you of your dignity. You accepted an apology even when it wasn't good enough. That takes real strength, Devin shook his head. Didn't feel strong. Felt like I wanted to yell and argue and make her understand how wrong she was. But you didn't, Jennifer pointed out. You took the high road. And your daughter was watching even if she won't remember. She was learning from you. My dad used to say something like that, Devin said. He'd tell me that how you handle hatred says more about you than the person throwing it at you. Your dad sounds like a wise man. He is, Devin agreed.
He had to be.
Grew up in the 60s down south. Dealt with way worse than what I face today. Jennifer stood up, preparing to continue her duties. Well, you come from good stock then. And for what it's worth, I think that man who helped my parents, that Mr. Johnson, he'd be proud to share a name with you. Devin felt something loosening in his chest. That tight knot starting to unravel just a little. Thank you, Jennifer. For the story. For standing up for us. For everything. That's what we do, she said with a warm smile. We take care of each other up here. Because at 30,000 feet, we're all just humans trying to get somewhere safely. As Jennifer walked back down the aisle to help other passengers, Devin looked out the window again. The clouds had thinned and he could see patches of ground below. Farmland. Probably somewhere over Nebraska or Kansas. The world looked so peaceful from up here, so orderly. Lily stirred and opened her eyes. She looked up at her father with that perfect baby trust. The kind that assumed the world was good and safe because Daddy was there. Devin kissed her forehead gently. We're going to be okay, baby girl, he whispered. There are good people in this world. People like Jennifer and that man from her story. People who choose kindness. He smiled down at her. And you're going to grow up knowing that hate is loud but love is stronger. Lily yawned a tiny little sound and snuggled closer to his chest. And for the first time since the incident with Patricia, Devin felt himself truly relax. The flight had been cruising smoothly for about an hour when Devin noticed something happening around him. It started small. The older woman across the aisle, whose name he'd learned was Barbara, kept glancing over with sympathetic smiles. Her husband Tom had given him a respectful nod earlier, but now other passengers were starting to interact with him too. A young woman from a few rows up came by, supposedly heading to the bathroom, but she stopped at Devin's seat. Hey, I just wanted to say that what you dealt with earlier was completely unfair. You handled it way better than most people would have. Devin looked up, surprised. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm Claire, by the way. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I work with families all the time. You're clearly a great dad. She smiled at Lily, who was awake now and looking around with curious eyes. And she's absolutely precious. After Claire walked away, the businessman who'd been sitting a few rows back came over during the beverage service. He was a white man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit and carrying himself like someone used to being in charge. I couldn't help but overhear everything earlier, he said, his voice low. I'm Richard Chen. I run a consulting firm in Denver and I travel constantly for work. I've seen a lot of ugly behavior on planes, but what that woman did was beyond the pale. Devin shifted Lily to his other arm. It's okay. It's over now. No, it's not okay, Richard said firmly. And I want you to know that I documented everything. I took down the flight number, the date, her name when the flight attendant said it. If you decide to file a formal complaint with the airline, I'd be happy to serve as a witness. Devin hadn't even thought about filing a complaint. He'd been so focused on just getting through the flight that the idea of taking further action hadn't crossed his mind. Thank you. That's really kind of you. Richard pulled out a business card. Here's my contact information. I mean it. What she said, the way she treated you, it's not acceptable. People like her need to face consequences or they'll keep doing it to others. After Richard returned to his seat, Barbara leaned across the aisle again. He's right, you know. You should report what happened. I don't know, Devin said quietly. I just want to forget about it and enjoy my trip. I understand that, Barbara said, her voice gentle but insistent. But honey, you have a daughter now. She's going to grow up in this world. Don't you want it to be a little bit better for her than it was for you? The words hit Devin hard. He looked down at Lily, who was gnawing on her fingers, completely content. Barbara was right. This wasn't just about him anymore. Every time someone like Patricia got away with that kind of behavior, it made it easier for the next person to do the same thing. My grandson is adopted, Barbara continued. He's black, and he's the light of our lives. But I worry about him every single day, I worry about what he'll face when he's older, what people will say to him, how they'll treat him. If more people spoke up, if more people faced real consequences for racism, maybe he'd have an easier time. Tom reached over and squeezed his wife's hand. We've been married 43 years, he added. And in all that time, I've learned that staying quiet about injustice doesn't make it go away. It just makes it more comfortable for the people causing it. Devin felt overwhelmed by the support of these strangers. These were people who didn't have to care. They could have stayed in their seats, minded their own business, and arrived in Denver without ever thinking about him again. But instead, they'd chosen to reach out, to validate his experience, to offer help. I'll think about it, Devin promised. I really will. The teenager with the purple headphones, who'd been recording earlier, walked by next. She paused and pulled out one earbud. Hey, so I posted what happened on TikTok. It's already got like 50,000 views. People are really angry about how that lady treated you. Devin's eyes widened. You posted it? On social media? Yeah, she said, seemingly unconcerned. I'm Zoe, by the way. And before you freak out, I didn't show your face or the baby's face. I kept the camera on that awful woman and the flight attendant. But people need to see this stuff. They need to know it still happens. Devin wasn't sure how he felt about being part of a viral video, even anonymously. What are people saying? Zoe pulled out her phone and scrolled through the comments. Mostly they're praising the flight attendant for how she handled it. Some people are trying to figure out who the woman is. Oh, and a bunch of people are sharing their own stories about experiencing racism while traveling. It's actually pretty powerful. She showed him the screen, and Devin could see hundreds of comments flowing in. People from all over the country, all over the world, talking about similar experiences, sharing advice, offering support. It was overwhelming and comforting at the same time. I didn't think it would blow up like this, Zoe admitted, but I'm glad it did. People need to understand that this isn't ancient history. This is happening right now, on planes and in stores and everywhere else. After Zoe returned to her seat, Jennifer came by again during her rounds. She'd clearly heard about the social media post because she addressed it immediately. I heard your interaction with Patricia is making waves online. How are you feeling about that? Devin bounced Lily gently. Honestly, I'm not sure. Part of me wishes it had stayed private, but another part of me thinks maybe it's good that people are talking about it. Jennifer sat down in the middle seat again. Can I share something with you? Something I haven't told anyone else today? Of course. After Patricia moved to the back of the plane, she tried to file a complaint against me. She told my supervisor that I was rude to her, that I discriminated against her, that I took your side without hearing her out. Jennifer's expression was calm, but Devin could see the tension in her jaw. My supervisor reviewed what happened, talked to several passengers who witnessed everything, and dismissed her complaint immediately. But the fact that she tried tells you everything you need to know about her character. She actually complained about you. Devin couldn't believe it. You were the only one being professional. That's how people like her operate, Jennifer explained. They create a situation, get called out for their behavior, and then play the victim. It's a classic tactic, and if enough people stay silent, if enough people decide it's not worth the trouble to speak up, those tactics work. Devin thought about Richard's business card in his pocket. He thought about Barbara's grandson. He thought about Zoe's video and all those comments from people sharing their own stories. I'm going to file a complaint, he said suddenly. Not because I want to ruin her life or get revenge, but because this needs to be on record. The airline needs to know this happened. Jennifer smiled. I think that's a wise decision. And for what it's worth, I've already filed my own report as part of my duties. It's documented in the flight log, but having a passenger complaint as well makes it much harder for the airline to sweep under the rug. Will you get in trouble? Devin asked, suddenly worried. For how you handled it. No, Jennifer assured him. I followed protocol exactly. I gave her clear options, I remained professional, and I prioritized the safety and comfort of all passengers. If anything, this situation will probably be used as a training example for other flight attendants on how to handle discrimination incidents. A call button dinged somewhere in the cabin, and Jennifer stood up. I need to go, but Devin, I want you to remember something. What happened today was awful. But look at how many people stepped up. Look at how many strangers became allies. That matters too. After she left, Devin sat there holding Lily, thinking about everything. The past few hours had been an emotional roller coaster. He'd experienced hatred and kindness, humiliation and support, anger and hope. all within the confined space of an airplane cabin. Lily made a happy gurgling sound and grabbed his nose with her tiny hand. Devon laughed despite everything, gently extracting his nose from her grip. "You're going to be a strong one, aren't you?" he whispered to her. "Just like your mama, just like your grandpa." He pulled out his phone and texted his wife Rachel, who'd been anxiously waiting for updates. "Flight's been eventful. We'll tell you everything when I land. But I'm okay. We're okay. And there are good people in this world." Rachel's response came back almost immediately. "What happened? Are you sure you're all right? Is Lily okay?" Devon typed back, "Lily's perfect. Your daughter slept through drama that would make a reality TV show jealous. I'll call you when we land. Love you." He put his phone away and looked out the window. The Rocky Mountains were visible in the distance now, their snow-capped peaks gleaming in the afternoon sun. They'd be landing soon. This flight would end and life would continue, but Devon knew he wouldn't forget this day. Not the bad parts or the good parts. Not Patricia's hatred or Jennifer's courage. Not the silence of some passengers or the support of others. All of it would stay with him, shaping how he saw the world and how he'd teach Lily to navigate it. Barbara caught his eye from across the aisle and mouthed, "Proud of you." Devon smiled back, and in that moment, surrounded by strangers who'd become something more, he felt a little bit of hope for the future. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Denver. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for landing." Devon had been so lost in thought that the announcement startled him. Had they really been in the air for almost 3 hours? It felt like both forever and no time at all. He checked Lily's diaper one more time and made sure everything was packed away in the diaper bag. His daughter was wide awake now, looking around at all the people and lights with fascination. As the plane descended, Devon noticed Patricia moving up the aisle from the back. She was heading toward the bathroom, her face carefully blank, avoiding eye contact with everyone. When she passed Devon's row, she walked a little faster, her shoulders hunched like she was trying to make herself smaller. Barbara noticed too. "Some people never really learn," she whispered to Devon. "They just learn to hide better." The plane touched down smoothly, and passengers started gathering their belongings before the seatbelt sign had even turned off. Devon stayed seated, not wanting to rush with Lily in his arms. He'd learned that lesson on their last flight when he'd tried to hurry and nearly bumped her head on an overhead bin. Jennifer appeared at his row as other passengers filed past. "Mr. Johnson, before you go, I wanted to give you this." She handed him a small card with the airline's customer service information and a reference number. "This is the incident report number. When you file your complaint, use this number. It'll link your report to mine and make everything much smoother." "Thank you," Devon said, taking the card, "for everything today. You didn't have to do what you did." "Yes, I did," Jennifer said firmly. "It's not just my job. It's the right thing to do. And honestly, after hearing my own parents' story my whole life, I've always wanted to be the person who stands up when it matters." She leaned down and gently touched Lily's hand. "You take care of your daddy, little one. He's one of the good ones." As Devon made his way off the plane, several passengers stopped him. Claire, the kindergarten teacher, gave him her email address. "If you ever need someone to write a statement about what happened, let me know." Richard Chen shook his hand firmly. "Remember what I said. Don't let this go unreported. Change doesn't happen when good people stay quiet." Tom and Barbara both hugged him, which surprised Devon but also warmed his heart. "You give that wife of yours our best," Barbara said. "And you hold that baby tight. The world needs more good fathers like you." Even Zoe, the teenager, caught up with him at the gate. "Hey, so my video is up to 200,000 views now. A bunch of news sites are asking if they can cover the story. I didn't give them any information about you, but if you wanted to tell your side, I could connect you with some reporters who seem legit." Devon thanked her but said he needed time to think about it. The idea of his story becoming national news felt overwhelming. Patricia was nowhere to be seen in the terminal. She'd apparently rushed off the plane and disappeared into the crowd. Devon wondered if she was thinking about what she'd done, if she felt any real remorse, or if she was just embarrassed about getting caught. His phone rang. It was Rachel. "Hey, baby," he answered, his voice tired but relieved. "We just landed." "Devon, what happened? Your text scared me half to death. I've been imagining all kinds of terrible things." He found a quiet spot near a window and sat down, adjusting Lily in his lap. Then he told Rachel everything. The whole story poured out. Patricia's comments, the escalation, Jennifer's intervention, the support from other passengers, the viral video, his decision to file a complaint. Rachel was quiet for a long moment after he finished. Then she said, her voice thick with emotion, "I should have been there. You shouldn't have had to deal with that alone." "I wasn't alone," Devin said, looking at Lily. "I had our daughter, and honestly, Rach, she's what kept me calm. Every time I wanted to lose my temper, I'd look at her and remember that she was watching." "Learning from me? I'm so proud of you," Rachel said, "and I'm so angry that you had to go through that. That people still act like that in 2025, me too. But there were good people there too. So many of them. Maybe that's what I need to focus on." They talked for a few more minutes, then Devin heard his brother's voice in the background. Kyle had come to pick him up. "Is that my brother?" Devin asked, smiling for the first time in hours. "Yeah, he's been pacing the arrivals area for 20 minutes, Rachel said. "I called him and told him something happened on the flight. He's worried sick." Devin could hear Kyle grab the phone. "D, you okay, man?" Rachel said, "Some lady went off on you?" "I'm fine, Kay, just tired. And ready to see you. Where are you?" "Baggage claim, Carousel 3. Look for the guy in the Broncos jersey who's about to tackle his big brother." Devin gathered his things and headed toward baggage claim. The airport was busy with travelers, everyone focused on their own journeys and destinations. He wondered how many of them had their own stories like his. How many had experienced moments of hatred or moments of unexpected kindness. When he spotted Kyle, his younger brother practically ran toward him. Kyle was 2 years younger than Devin, a physical therapist with an easy smile and infectious energy. But right now his face was serious. "Let me see my niece first," Kyle said, immediately reaching for Lily. "Then you're going to tell me everything, and we're going to figure out what to do about it." They found Devin's luggage and walked toward the parking garage. Kyle listened as Devin retold the story, his jaw getting tighter with each detail. "Man, I want to find that woman and give her a piece of my mind," Kyle said angrily. "Who treats people like that? Who says stuff like that to someone holding a baby?" "A lot of people, apparently," Devin said. "But you know what, Kyle? Just as many people stood up for me. That's what I'm trying to hold on to." They reached Kyle's car and Devin strapped Lily into the car seat that Kyle had borrowed from a friend. His daughter was getting sleepy again, worn out from all the excitement she hadn't even understood. As they drove toward Kyle's apartment, Denver's skyline visible in the distance, Kyle asked, "Are you really going to file a complaint?" "Yeah," Devin said. "I have to. Not just for me, but for everyone else who might have to sit next to someone like Patricia, and for Lily. So maybe by the time she's old enough to travel alone, things will be a little bit better." "Dad would be proud of you," Kyle said quietly. Devin felt his throat tighten. Their father had passed away 2 years ago, right before Lily was born. He'd never gotten to meet his granddaughter, and Devin missed him every single day. "You think so?" "I know so. Remember what he always said? You can't control how people treat you, but you can control what you do about it. You're doing something about it. That takes guts." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the kind that only exists between brothers who've been through everything together. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You know what the craziest part of all this was?" Devin said suddenly. "The flight attendant who stood up for me, Jennifer, she told me this story about how a stranger helped her parents when she was a baby. A black man who showed them kindness when everyone else was cruel. And his last name was Johnson, same as ours." Kyle glanced over. "You're kidding. I'm not." "What are the odds of that?" "Maybe it wasn't odds," Kyle said thoughtfully. "Maybe it was just the universe reminding you that good people exist. That kindness matters. That what we do echoes." Devin looked back at Lily, now sound asleep in her car seat. She looked so peaceful, so innocent, so completely unaware of the complicated world she'd been born into. "I want to be like that guy," Devin said. "The one from Jennifer's story. The one who helped when he could have just minded his own business. I want Lily to grow up seeing that kind of example." "You already are, D," Kyle said. "You kept your cool today when most people would have lost it. You protected your daughter, stayed dignified, and still chose to forgive when someone apologized. That's exactly the kind of father, the kind of man that Lily needs." As they pulled into Kyle's apartment complex, Devin's phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from the airline, confirming receipt of Jennifer's incident report and asking if he wanted to add his own statement. He stared at it for a moment, then opened the email and clicked, "Yes, I want to file a report." Later that night, after Lily was asleep in the portable crib Kyle had set up, Devin sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. He typed out everything that had happened, every detail he could remember. He included the names of the passengers who'd witnessed it, Richard's offer to serve as a witness, the flight number, the seat numbers, everything. When he finished, he read it over once, then hit submit. Kyle brought him a beer and sat down across from him. "How do you feel?" "Lighter," Devin admitted. "Like I put down something heavy I'd been carrying." "That's because you did," Kyle said. "You turned a bad experience into action. That's powerful, man." Devin took a sip of his beer and thought about the day, about Patricia's hatred and Jennifer's courage, about the passengers who'd spoken up and the ones who'd stayed silent, about the viral video in the mountains outside Kyle's window and his daughter sleeping peacefully in the next room. "You know what?" Devin said. "I think we're going to be okay. Lily's going to grow up in a world that still has problems but also has people willing to solve them. That's something." "That's everything," Kyle corrected. And sitting there in his brother's apartment, thousands of miles from home, but somehow exactly where he needed to be, Devin finally allowed himself to believe it.